Let's continue comparing the Hebrew Masoretic with the Greek Septuagint by going through the New Testament and seeing which manuscript family the writers used when quoting from the Old Testament. In this video, we will be looking at Matthew chapters 13 to 19. The running count of verses will continue from the last video. Matthew 13, 14, and 15 is about why Jesus spoke in parables. It reads, "Unto them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah, which says, By hearing you shall hear, and shall in no way understand, and seeing you shall see, but shall in no way perceive. For this people's heart has become calloused, and their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes they have closed. Lest perhaps they should perceive with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and should turn again, and I should heal them." This is a quotation from Isaiah 6, 1 and 2. The Masoretic reads, "Hear you indeed, but understand not, and see you indeed, but perceive not. Make the heart of this people fat, and make their ears heavy, and shut their eyes, lest they see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and turn again, and be healed." The Septuagint reads, "You shall hear indeed, but you shall not understand, and you shall see indeed, but you shall not perceive. For the heart of this people has become gross, and their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes have they closed, lest they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and be converted, and I should heal them." Even though some of the words in these translations are different, all words mean the same thing. All three passages agree. Matthew follows both. Matthew 13:35 is Matthew's explanation for why Jesus taught in parables. It reads, "That it might be fulfilled which was spoken through the prophet, saying, I will open my mouth in parables, I will utter things hidden from the foundation of the world." This is a quotation from Psalm 78:2. The Masoretic reads, "I will open my mouth in a parable, I will utter dark sayings of old." The Septuagint reads, "I will open my mouth in parables, I will utter previews from the beginning." Matthew adds foundation, which is not found in the Hebrew nor Greek. This is not a direct quotation. And what things did Jesus utter? Matthew says hidden things. The Masoretic says puzzles. The Septuagint says previews, which is a literal translation, but can also be translated riddles. It appears that the Masoretic and the Septuagint have the same readings, and Matthew is loosely translating either of them. So Matthew is following both. Matthew 15:4 is when Jesus accuses the Pharisees and scribes for violating the fifth commandment. It reads, "For God said, Honor your father and your mother, and he that speaks evil of father or mother, let him die the death." Jesus is quoting two passages. The first is from Exodus 20, verse 12, and Deuteronomy 5:16, and the second is from Exodus 21:17. The Masoretic reads, "Honor your father and mother. He that curses his father or his mother shall surely be put to death." In the Septuagint, Exodus 21, verses 16 and 17 are switched. What this does is places the two verses about how to treat father and mother next to each other. The Septuagint reads, "Honor your father and your mother. He that reviles his father or his mother shall surely die." The ASV rendering in Matthew 15:4 is a literal translation of the Masoretic's Exodus 21:17. Even the ASV translated it differently here. In short, the Masoretic says, "will die the death." And the Greek has the same literal meaning, saying, "the end will be death." Even though Matthew uses the very same Greek words found in the Septuagint, all three passages agree. Matthew is following both. Matthew 15:8 and 9 is Jesus' quotation from Isaiah about those who negate God's word because of their traditions. It reads, "This people honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. In vain do they worship me, teaching doctrines, the precepts of men." This is a quotation from Isaiah 29:13. The Masoretic reads, Forasmuch as this people draw near, and with their mouth and with their lips do honor me, but have removed their heart far from me, and their fear of me is a commandment of men which has been taught. The Septuagint reads, This people draw near to me with their mouth, and they honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. But in vain do they worship me, teaching the commandments and doctrines of men. The first half of the quotation is the same between the manuscripts. Though the second half has the same message, the words are very different. Without too much analysis, it is clearly seen that Jesus quoted from the Septuagint. Matthew 16:27 is Jesus speaking about his second coming and what he will do. It reads, Then shall he render unto every man according to his deeds. This is a quotation from Psalm 62:12 and Proverbs 24:12. The Masoretic reads, You render every man according to his work. Shall not he render to every man according to his work? The Septuagint reads, You will recompense every one according to his works. He renders every man according to his works. It doesn't come out in the translations, but the last word is different. In Matthew and the Masoretic, the word should be translated actions. In the Septuagint, it should be translated works. This is true for both the verse from Psalms and the verse from Proverbs. Because these words are synonyms, the meaning is the same. But based on the choice of words, Jesus is following the Masoretic. Matthew 18:16 is part of Jesus' teaching on what to do if your brother sins against you. It reads, At the mouth of 2 witnesses or 3, every word may be established. This is a quotation from Deuteronomy 19:15. The Masoretic reads, At the mouth of 2 witnesses or at the mouth of 3 witnesses shall a matter be established. The Septuagint reads, By the mouth of 2 witnesses or by the mouth of 3 witnesses shall every word be established. When looking at the original languages, everything appears to have the very same meaning. However, the Masoretic does not have every, which does appear in Matthew. Jesus is favoring the Septuagint. Matthew 19:4 and 5 is when Jesus is teaching on marriage and divorce. He quotes Genesis twice. It reads, Have you not read that he who made them from the beginning made them male and female? And said, For this cause shall a man leave his father and mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. The first quotation is from Genesis 1:27. There is no need to read this from Genesis because the Masoretic and the Septuagint are in perfect agreement. The second quotation is from Genesis 2:24. The same is the case here. All manuscript families agree. Matthew 19:18 and 19 is Jesus' conversation with the rich young ruler. It reads, You shall not kill. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness. Honor your father and your mother, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. These are quotations from Exodus 20:12-16, and its parallel passage in Deuteronomy 5:16-20, and secondly, Leviticus 19:18. Jesus switches the order around, placing honoring father and mother after not bearing false witness. In Exodus and Deuteronomy, honoring father and mother appears before not killing. And about bearing false witness, Jesus does not say, against your neighbor. Therefore, like so many other times, Jesus loosely quotes from the Old Testament. The Masoretic reads, Honor your father and your mother. You shall not kill. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. The Septuagint reads, Honor your father and your mother. You shall not kill. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Though Jesus changed the order of a couple of the commandments, everything else reads the same. Jesus is following both. That is enough for now, but we will continue looking at New Testament quotations from the Old Testament next year. blessings, and so forth.